You can't see me. Our presentation is on sexting. Okay, so the agenda is we're going to do an activity, and then we're going to talk about the definition of sexting, and then we're going to look at the research and what the research has to say about sexting, and then we're going to talk about the dangers of sexting, and then we're going to talk about what parents and middle schoolers should do with sexting. Activity time. Okay, so we're going to do a little scenario. Your sixth grader comes to you and says he received an explicit revealing photo of a girl in his class and asks what he should do. What do you do? Do you tell him you will talk about it later, ask what he thinks about it and have a productive conversation, punish him and take away his phone, or encourage him to text back because this is normal sexual behavior?
Punish him, punish him.
I think you should tell him you should talk about it later because it's so
Take
awkward.
away his phone.
It's so awkward.
Oh yeah, I don't want to have that conversation with my sixth grader, no.
No. Tell him to text back. I think that's the best answer.
Okay, well the correct answer is ask what he thinks about it and have a productive conversation. Okay, so sexting is defined as sending or receiving sexually explicit text messages, pictures, or videos, also known as sex, via the internet and or mobile devices. Okay, so is sexting a part of modern sexual behavior? With universal access to the internet becoming more prevalent among younger populations, social media is a primary channel for sexting to occur. So because more younger populations and middle schoolers are getting a hold of phones and getting social media, this is a primary way for sexting to happen. Okay, some of the research. Among the youth population, 15 to 19% are responsible for sending sexual messages, and 27 to 35% are responsible for receiving them. So more people are receiving them than sending them. And then recent research has deemed sexting for the purpose of romance, flirtation, sexual gratification, harassment, or humor. Research says that girls are more likely to be pressured into sexting and to report negative emotional responses to sexting requests from their partner. So it's not necessarily that boys don't feel pressured into sexting or feel negative emotions, it's just girls report it more. And then the research suggests that motivations for sexting include sexual release and higher self-esteem. More research. Sexting is most prevalent among ages 11 to 17, so middle school and high school, though children younger have reported of participating in sexting, which is really sad. Research suggests that there are fears and concerns with sexting as it can jeopardize futures by putting explicit, compromising images online that could be available to potential employers, academic institutions, and family members. And then 14.5% of sex are forwarded to other people without the original sender's consent, which is kind of high. Okay.
All right, so a few more facts about sexting. Teen sexting provides one more way for teens to individuate from family, gain peer approval, and explore their sexuality. Thus, teens ignore or undervalue the long-term psychological, and legal consequences of sexting. So pretty much, this age is a little bit vulnerable for stuff like this to be peer pressured into it because they want to be different than their family and they want to be part of the popular crew. So if this is what the popular crew is doing, then obviously they're going to do it. 21% of teen girls and 39% of teen boys reported that they had sent material to individuals that they wanted to hook up with. So pretty much what we've noticed in our culture is that this hookup culture is getting a lot more prevalent. A lot more people don't want the label, don't want the relationship. They just kind of want to hook up with somebody. So they're setting this stuff out and not really having any relationship with them at all. The more time spent with friends is an unsupervised setting, the more likely one was to send and receive a sext message. When students reported that their parents limited their cell phone and or monitored their cell phones, the less likely they were to report sending and receiving a sext message. So obviously, when the kids are supervised, they do report it less. So the problem here is that parents are giving their kids phones too young or giving their kids too much range over what they do on their phone. So one thing that would be a solution to that is to have a passcode or to have restrictions on your child's phone, or just not give them one, or give them like a flip phone or something of the sort instead.
Okay, so some of the dangers of sexting. Sexting has been reported to have mental health difficulties, impulsivity, substance abuse, and risky sexual behaviors. And then kind of along with that, research suggests that sexting motivates increased general sexual activity, which then prompts people to have more unprotected sex, and then that kind of causes people to have lack of use in education on contraception, and increased number of sexual partners. So it's kind of like a chain effect. Sexting is shown to be closely related to revenge pornography, cyberbullying, dating violence, cyber victimization, sharing sexual content without consent, thus provoking legal consequences. So kind of like what I think you were saying, that whatever you send out and put out in the world is permanent, and so there's a lot of legal consequences with like consent. And then sexting can also lead to bullying, blackmailing, and human trafficking. And then to kind of balance out all the bad, here's some scripture. It's really hard to live set apart, especially with like social media being super just widespread among this population. But as Christians, we're called to be people who are set apart and who show Christ's love through our actions and our behaviors. So Matthew 5:28 says, "But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart." So obviously people who are sexting or who are sending these kinds of messages or videos are not respecting the other person's body, whether it's female or male. You're probably looking at it with lustful intent. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20 says, "Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price, so glorify God with your body." And then Romans 12:1 says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship."
Okay, when do we have the sex talk? Now, like right now. It's important that you teach your children, like have the sex education talk before it's too late and their peers like start teaching them about that, because then they're going to get like a distorted view of what sex actually is. And then if you haven't had the conversation about sexting or sex in general, now's the time. If your child already seems to appear knowledgeable on the subject, ask what they already know so that you can teach them healthy behavior and then refine what they already know. What do we do as parents to prevent your kid from sexting? Like I said, be the one who teaches your kids about sex. Give your children limited screen time and limited access to their electronics, so you can like tell your kids to put their like phones in a different room at nighttime. You can explain to your children what can happen to an image once a picture or video gets sent. There's no taking it back or like knowing where it's going to end up. So ask them to think before like sending anything, would I want like my family or teachers or anybody to know or see this? And then make sure your kids know what a healthy relationship looks like. So ask your kids what types of behaviors they think are appropriate and are not appropriate, and make sure they know what behaviors they need to stay away from. And then also prepare your kids to resist peer pressure. Let your children know they may be asked to do this, and give your children permission to let you be like the bad parent, and say that you would get in trouble from your parents if you did that. Make sure your kids know that they don't need to be forwarding messages or images. Let them know that they do not have the right to be sharing other people's pictures. Teach your children healthy emotional habits. Teach them that when they are upset to step back and to take time to cool off before responding, and ask your kids questions so they feel comfortable. Like, is it important to ask, or has anyone ever peer pressured you or asked you to sex? And this builds like a healthy relationship so your kids know that they can come to you in the future about it.
Oh, flip-flop. Okay, so what do you do if you catch your child in the act of it? You want to address the situation head on. This is not a conversation that needs to be postponed or even like sugarcoated in a sense. It's a very serious conversation need to be had because they are just confused about their sexuality. Also, it is illegal. So be transparent. The last thing you need to do is make the situation seem appropriate. You need to teach your children what healthy sexual relationships look like. You need to talk to your child about this risk of sexting, like I mentioned before. They're sending these messages in confidence, but someone could not be doing that with the good intentions. We've all been there in middle school where things get leaked out, so you don't want your child to be a part of that. They need to be made aware about the dangers of that. The conversation can go both ways. If your child is the one receiving or sending the text messages, it just depends on where they land in the conversation. You need to know where they land, whether they're sending them or receiving them or both, yada yada. Make sure the conversations are documented. It is against the law, child pornography being spread. So you need to make sure that school counselors and people like that are part of the conversations to make sure everything's taken care of. And continue to be a support system for your child. They've made a tough decision and that will deeply affect them, whether it's now or even later. So be there for them when the times are hard, because if you're not there for them, who else is? Make sure healthy conversations about your child's sexuality are continuous. These conversations are more important now than ever to confirm if they are learning from their experience of sexting. Especially if these sexual conversations aren't a part of your regular dialect with your child. We're lucky enough to learn that these conversations need to be had from the get-go, starting at young ages, but a lot of children are not in a situation where this is brand new to them, and so it can be embarrassing, so they need to make sure these conversations are being had where they are continuing to grow from the situation. Even counseling, even Christian counseling, if that's just what you lean towards. So here's our references. And here's more of them. Thank you.